Hi, this is Jefferson. When we left off, we had created a blank userChrome.css file in the Chrome folder in our profile, and we created a shortcut here for quick access to that file, which is handy because now we want to make some changes. This file is empty. When I double click it, Windows will just open it in Notepad. Terrible editor. We're not going to use Notepad for editing this file. Instead, I recommend using either Notepad++, which you can download for Windows, or Atom, which you can download for Windows, Mac, and Linux. Atom's sort of a huge download, so if you don't want a huge download, you may want to use another editor on your system. As long as it doesn't add word processing tags to it, it's safe to use, but the advantage of these editors is they have syntax coloring, which makes it a lot easier to understand what it is that you're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and open this in Notepad++, which adds itself here to the right-click context menu. Nothing exciting yet. Let's try one of the sample rules on this what can it do page, which is the one that colors in the gray icons in the bookmark sidebar. So as you can see, it looks like this: gray, 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 gray. To color that in, we're going to apply this rule. So let me just select this. Copy using Control-C. Go to Notepad++ and paste. So you can see right away that it's showing me some information here. Green is a comment. Comments don't have any effect. They're just for your own information to help you understand what's going on. You've got selectors, which are these guys, and then you've got the rules, which are in black, but they have this flag for important to override the built-in rules. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And Firefox isn't going to change right away. Nothing's changing, because it only reads userChrome.css when you first start up. So let's go ahead and exit Firefox, and then we'll start it up again and see what difference we see. Boom, color. So that was pretty easy. Let's try something more ambitious though. Oops, restore. So I'm going to try changing the address bar drop-down. As you can see, when you search for something in the address bar, you get a list that's the full width of the browser. And the problem with this is that it makes it a little hard to read. You've got to scan all the way across, and this doesn't line up every time. So I prefer to use the older style of display, as you can see here. So let's load that up. I'm going to choose 2-line and then scroll down. And I'm going to choose this old kind of matching style, which will become clearer when we install it. And then select CSS, and then I'm just going to Control-C to copy. Now, I could paste this into userChrome.css, but I don't want to do that because this rule is super long and it'll become unwieldy for me to work with this file. So what I'm going to do is save it in a different file. Here, right-click, New, Text Document. I'm going to call it address bar and then .css. So I've got my file created, yes, and let's open it in Atom so you can see how that editor looks. I previously opened something in Atom, so it shows up here in the short list. If I hadn't seen it before, I would choose other list, and then more apps, and eventually I would see Atom on the list. When you first install Atom, it has some panels that you don't need. So I'm just going to close all of those. And let's address bar. I'm going to paste that rule that I copied. And save. And you can see that, like Notepad++, Atom also has syntax coloring. It has different syntax coloring, so you can just use whatever you like better. So, as with our previous edit, Firefox is not aware of this. More importantly, Firefox isn't even going to look for something called addressbar.css. In order to get Firefox to look for addressbar.css, we need to create an @import rule in userChrome.css right at the top. So let's do that. I have that file open over here, and I'm going to go to the top and add it here. So we use @import. And then the URL, we're just going to use the file name. It's right in the same folder. Address bar.css, and then I always put screen because I only want it to apply to the screen. Obviously that's not critical because you're not going to print your user interface. So save that, and then when we restart Firefox, it should discover and apply that new rule. So let's see what happens. We still have colored icons in the sidebar. What about the address bar? Well, as you can see, it has incorporated that change. We now have in our Chrome folder our userChrome.css file, and in the userChrome.css file we've told it that we want to import addressbar.css. So this is a way to keep things a little more distinct and organized. Now finally, I should mention something that is also really handy, and that is the browser toolbox. So in order to use the browser toolbox, you first need to call up the developer tools and make a settings change. I might have already done it here. So toggle tools, and in the settings, which is this gear, you'll see these last two items need to be turned on. Enable browser Chrome and add-on debugging toolboxes, and enable remote debugging. So then to call up the browser toolbox, web developer, browser toolbox, you just do that. Now you may notice there's a little dialog back here. If it's hidden, you can access it this way through the toolbar. And this is asking you to approve the remote debugging connection. I don't know if you can get rid of this. It doesn't seem to be easy to get rid of. So when this opens up, you may open up in the style editor, you may open up in the inspector. The inspector shows you all the bits and pieces of the user interface if you want to poke around. And the style editor is where you're going to find your userChrome.css file. So we're just going to scroll down a little bit. Here's userChrome.css, and here is addressbar.css. So userChrome.css has your @import, and then each thing that you import will also show up here on the left. And the nice thing about that is that you can independently edit these things, and better yet, edits that you make here are pretty much live. I mean, by live, I mean there's a really short delay between the time that you save something and the time that you see the change. So I notice that the fonts are a little small. So I'm going to go ahead and increase the fonts. So I've got 14, 12. I'm going to increase this to 16 and 16. So now when I search in the address bar, as you can see, the text is much bigger. Now if I decide that I like those sizes, all I have to do is click here Save. That will be committed to disk. It's in addressbar.css, and we're done with that. If you discover that you don't like that, you can use undo, and I just use Control-Z to undo. On Mac, I believe it would be Command-Z, and you can then edit it differently. So let's say I want 1614 because really I don't need the addresses bigger. See how that looks. That's not bad. So I'm going to save that change. You can also experiment with adding completely new rules here. So just go ahead and insert a line break at the end, and you can put in your next rule. So if we go back to the what was it called page, you can actually just do restore previous session. Another example of a rule that you could use is this wrapping toolbar, where you can do the tabs on the bottom versus the top. Let's give this one a try. Options here, and then we'll take this over to the browser toolbox and paste. Now it'll take a moment for Firefox to switch, but as you can see, we've now gone from having the tabs on the top to having the main toolbar on the top. Oops. Now, it's a little awkward because I can't see the normal buttons that appear at the top of a window. So if you're going to use this setting, it's useful to show either the title bar or the menu bar. So this is the menu bar. As you can see, that allows you to see the Windows buttons, or the title bar. Either way, whatever you prefer. But I think that this actually is not that attractive. Now, this is a very simple style recipe. It's very possible someone has a better one that solves that problem. I just don't know where it is. And I'm going to undo that because actually I don't prefer that. So undo, undo. As you can see, this is no longer italic. I don't have to say that that is the standard that we have on disk. So hopefully that gives you a reasonably good idea of how you can go ahead and get your style rules into Firefox, into userChrome.css directly, into an imported file, or in through the browser console.